Hey, welcome to Just the Facts, episode number 6. Episode number 6. We've got a great one for you guys today. It's on digital marketing and e-commerce in 2021. Yeah, it's a new year, Bob. It is a new year, almost already into March, if you can believe that. Crazy.
Absolutely amazing.
As we end out the month of February 2021, this is going to be a great discussion. Now, let's get right to the meat of what we're talking about, Bob, today, and that is digital marketing or e-commerce in 2021. So I want to kick things off by asking you a couple questions. And number one is, what are some of the things that people might make mistakes on when listing their vehicles online? Because I'll tell you, some of the audience, our loyal listeners here, know that I was just in the market for a Jeep, and I used all different avenues of trying to find that Jeep, using gurus and Auto Trader and Cars and Carfax.com, and going even into Craigslist and doing a Google search and all that. I wanted to have that full consumer experience, and I saw all kinds of craziness out there. So what are some of the mistakes coming from the dealer world, because you spent a lot of time there, that people might be making today in 2021 when listing their vehicles?
Well, it's funny because some of the mistakes have been going on since the 80s, right? But the evolution of online merchandising is becoming more and more and more involved, right? As the newer generation of buyers, that's where they live. That's where they like to do their shopping. They spend more time there than ever before. But they're looking for details, right? You've heard the term the devil's in the details. Well, you got to be careful just to put your vehicle out there and not set it apart, right? There's literally hundreds of thousands, if a million vehicles available for sale on cyberspace, and everyone's just a click away, right? It's not miles away anymore. It's that quarter-inch click on the mouse. So you need to set your vehicle apart. Just simply saying windows, locks, tail, every car, name a car that doesn't have power windows, power locks, tail cruise, right? You got to set it apart. What makes it unique? What makes it worth the money you're asking? What makes it stand out in the crowd? And that, to me, is probably the cardinal mistake dealers make today, is not making their listings stand out, not making it robust enough, not making it have a personality. Every car is like a fingerprint, right? There's no two used cars the same. Make them stand out.
So, there's been a lot of craziness in 2020 and even going into 2021. We were in Houston last week and we were stuck with no power and water for 4 days. And so there's just been crazy stuff happening all over the US, and everybody's had to adapt in one way or another. Not just the automotive industry. It's been very widespread, right? So speaking of the automotive industry, in your opinion, how well have dealers adapted to the ever-changing marketplace and consumers? And like at one point you're open and the next day you're closed, right? Or you got to modify things, or service department's got to have a valet service, that sort of thing. So we've heard some of that, but how well, coming from that space for so many years, how well do you think those dealerships are starting to adapt to all of these crazy changes out there?
Well, truth is what truth is. And even in the good times, it's hard to run a dealership, right? It's not as easy as people portray it to be. There's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of things that you have to deal with on a daily basis, most of which is with depreciating assets. So that's never easy either, right? So, but with the advent of COVID, quite frankly, and most people just simply going online, and in some states, you couldn't even go to the dealership anymore, right? Even the dealers that weren't that good at it because they fought it and just didn't like it. Not every dealer likes it, right? But you're almost forced. It almost forced your hand to play the cards that you were dealt. And so, to answer your question straight, not all of them are great at it, but a lot of them got better at it, right? Because they had to. Because really, if you're going to stay in business, you got to be adaptable. And online is, no questions asked, the wave of the future, right? How much is up for debate? How much will it ultimately become business is up to debate. But the fact that people are more comfortable there, that's not up for debate. And the fact that the new buyer does like it and prefer it, that's not up for debate. How much it'll grow, how much of it will become the normal, no one knows, right? Even measuring it by COVID standards isn't fair because that's such a unique situation. But, whether you have an internet department, or if you have a BDC, or if you have the marketing department with your e-commerce, all those are different versions of doing the same thing. And that is building your business to do business online, right?
No, that's a fantastic answer because it's so much is changing these days, and it's so difficult to, kind of operate under just, things that you just don't know, right?
Right.
It's so much unknown out there that it's really difficult at times. And so I don't know if I mentioned it, but we do have that Facebook Live audience out there. And so welcome everybody that's there at Facebook Live. I just got a note like, hey, push Facebook Live. So I'm doing that. This is my push of Facebook Live
Oh, and don't
audience
worry,
that's out
DJ.
there. But you know what?
I
We
don't
got a
even know
ton
why
of
we're
people
doing
that
this.
registered for what's that?
I don't even know why we're doing this. The internet's not going to last.
Yeah,
Remember being in that meeting? The internet's not going to last. It's a fad.
Yeah, it's no fad. It's here to stay, whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so there's my advertisement for Facebook Live, but we have a ton of people that registered for this right here on Zoom too. So there are several people that are not zoomed out yet. They don't have that Zoom fatigue, or maybe they do, but they thought, we like DJ and Bob, we're loyal listeners. So we need to like tag that. We need to have like that loyal listener, like little tag on their,
Yeah, absolutely.
their name. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. Anyway, so people didn't dial in to hear us though. I think we need to bring an expert in. No, probably not. They're like, wait a second. I thought these guys, these clowns here, were going to have some sort of guest on here, and that's why I tuned in. We got a big one today. We got someone who's is very well rehearsed in. Is that even? I don't even know. He's very well versed in all things automotive, and especially the digital marketing side of the things that we do in the automotive industry. And I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to hand it over to you, Bob, to introduce who we've got as our special guest today on Just the Facts.
Sit on your hands, will you, DJ? Just sit on.
I'll try.
Now we got a very special guest today coming to us from Autonation. Mr. Brian Free is a veteran of the automotive space, right? And he's part of the Autonation marketing team, and he heads up the digital platform and the digital market side. In fact, he's the senior director of digital marketing, and his focus is on driving the online consumer experience for Autonation itself. So I guess without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce him. Brian, come on board, bud. There he is.
There he is. Hey.
Hey, thanks both for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. And in your opening remarks, I was just listening and I was just shaking my head because all the things you guys were talking about merchandising vehicles and what occurred with COVID and the new environment. It's just, I can talk to all that and really, we lived it and we did adapt. And 2021 is going to be more challenges, but I am a longtime industry veteran, and the market we're in right now couldn't be better. Sometimes you shake your head and you kind of say, wow, literally a year ago, you asked me when it started to gear up, what we were afraid of and what we were doing was we were battening down the hatches.
Yeah.
Right? We were DEFCON 3. Stores were closed. And look at where we are now. It's really, truly amazing.
Yeah.
But thanks for the invite today, and I'm happy to be here with you.
You know what, Brian? We're thrilled to have you here. To be honest with you, we love bringing people on board who can talk to it. DJ and myself are veterans too, but we've been out of the dealer face for a little while, right? We obviously work for Carfax, so we like to stay grounded and talk to experts like yourself. So I guess, Brian, the first question I'll ask you is in just a couple of words or a couple of bullet points, what did you have to adapt, right? 20 was crazy, absolutely crazy.
It was crazy. Yep. Yeah. So really from a store operations perspective, right, we had a realignment in our staffing model, right, that we took that early on to take some of that cost out. But really the entire in-store process, right, everyone's masked up, it's for both the customers and the associates, right? Or the stores are sanitized daily now. The vehicles are sanitized. You get your pens when you're doing your deal in a plastic wrapper, right? So safety and convenience is first and foremost in Autonation and what we're doing. Secondly is all the other options out there. And we're going to talk a little bit get a little deeper into digital retailing. We've obviously been doing that for a while, but really, just put it on a rocket ship, right? That we really had to look top to bottom and say, where are those pain points, or where can we have customers do more online and do less in a dealership, right? That's really what we've seen too, is that although the traffic is less in our dealerships today, and when the people come in, they're ready to go, right? They know their car, they know their price, where Years past, even a year ago, it would be, hey, they'd come in for a Saturday, take a couple of test drives. It's a completely different model now. In the marketing department and kind of corporate headquarters, we went through the same exercise, right? We reduced our expenses. Certainly in my world, immediately we basically turned off digital marketing, right? Like the paid side of the house, the social media side of the house. Because we said, hey, we don't know what's going on. Half the stores are closed. Why are we throwing money out the window, right?
Right.
So now that posture has changed as the year progressed. And then the other big thing also too was traditional advertising, right? That we've been a big player. We're national, have a national footprint. So that we really took a fine tooth comb to that as well, and said, are we spending the money in the right places, and how to get, how are we trying to attract a customer, and is that really the right place for us to do it?
It's funny because there's always that. Do customers want to shop online? Do they want to do total business online? And then, I still get a lot of feedback from dealers who tell me that the customer still wants that warm feeling, right? The thrill of the deal, the feel of the wheel, all those things. They still love to come to the showroom, right? Even the new generation that we thought in the beginning don't want anything to do with the showroom, they still want to come in. So with the COVID and stuff, are you still finding that to be true?
Absolutely, certainly true. Same deal, right? Everybody, if you read the automotive news, you hear the the Carvanas, right? Nobody, everything's going to be on a flat truck delivered to your house. We still just don't see that. Now, clearly, a lot of people are transacting online or doing steps online, but they still want, to your point, still want to touch the wheel, right? That the biggest one of the items I forgot to mention was at-home test drives, right? So that's a critical piece, because that is really what closes the deal, right? That they see the car, they say, yep, it rides what I want, because they've figured all the other stuff out already. They've got the payment down, they've done their credit app, right? It's that last step to say, is this the car I really want to be in? So that's probably the biggest change. We can transact all the way 100% online, and it's still a very small percentage. That there's just some pieces that just work better. I'd also put, F&I in that bucket as well. That I think that, having a live presentation, one-on-one discussion about F&I products, that just works better than, hey, I get this menu, and every time I click on something, my payment goes up, but I really don't know what I'm getting for that, So right. I think that's a big piece that's still kind of evolving in the digital space.
Well, then I guess one other question I want to ask you is, looking forward, right? Looking forward, 2021. What are just a couple of the things you think have to be done to be successful in 2021? Certainly it's going to be even different than 2020, right? So what are just a couple of things?
Yeah, no doubt. So again, I think back to the basics, right? Is to make sure that customers know that we take safety as the top priority, so that when they do come into the store, that it's a safe and clean environment, that the vehicles are that way. And that's not just sales, that's service as well, right? That when folks come in for service, we sanitize every vehicle. So, because, hey, how many technicians were in this car? I have my kids in here, so that's a key component. I think that's the priority, is making sure that customers and associates feel safe and in the work environment every day. Second is, our big focus is figuring out how to make that in-store experience quicker and easier, right? Not a stack of papers and all that, I'm getting the line of papers and I'm just signing away, right? Which one of those can we digitize? Which one of those can we do a digital signature and get off of the wet ink? So we've really been spending a lot of time, top to bottom, looking at all that. And you've been in the field, and I'm sure the folks who are on this call today, that there's just so much paperwork, right? The states require some, the manufacturers require some. So it's a monumental challenge when you deal with multiple brands. But that's what we think is really going to move the needle, is that not only can you do these pieces online, when you do come into the store, you're not there for a long time. And certainly in this environment, you don't want to be there a long time. So that's really a big focus for us. Another one is, the omni-channel experience, right? That customers are all over the map now. When you mentioned you were searching for your Jeep, right? That we want to do a better job, and I think all of us want to do a better job in saying we know more about this customer. So not only where were they online? What were they looking at? Did they look at multiple vehicles? And then for a company, for Autonation, right? We've been, 2021 will be the 25th anniversary of Autonation.
Nice.
So we have 13 million sales. So we have a huge customer database, not only on the sales side, but on the service side. And quite frankly, we don't do a great job of recognizing and rewarding our loyal customers, right? They could have bought a Mercedes in one of our stores and then bought, now they're looking at maybe a Ford, their lifestyle change or whatever. And we don't do a good job of knowing that. Say, hey, we know you're a loyal customer. You've bought multiple cars from us in multiple locations and you service in multiple spots. So that we call a customer 360. And that's really what we're building, is saying wherever you've transacted with us or whatever kind of communication you're getting, whether you're chatting with us, whether we're sending you an email and you responded to that, we want to tie all that together and make sure we have that full picture. Again, that it helps the customer, right? Saying they know about me, they care about me. When I come in for an experience, it's going to be better than just me walking in the front door and they never saw me before.
That personal touch. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Mr. DJ, I know I asked you to sit on your hands. I know you want to ask.
You didn't think I was going to do it, did you?
No, I didn't. I could give you credit for that.
Yeah. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. If you saw me looking away from the screen, Facebook Live audience, someone crashed it. There were so many people watching it, I think it crashed. And so we rebooted that. So hi, Facebook Live again. And if you didn't see the beginning, we will make sure that you get the recording so you can see Brian be well introduced. Right, Brian? So great stuff. This sounds really good. And, one of the things that I always jump in on is time and money. Big obstacles. Like, some of this stuff is going to take time. Resources are thin, right? And so, to the average gal that's watching this today, and maybe they've got one store, maybe they're, a marketing director over several stores. What's one nugget that they can take away today that can help them, especially when they say, you know what, I don't have the resources right now. We don't really have the staffing, the money to really make some major changes. What's one simple change that they can make to help in that digital space?
One simple change, and I guess hopefully it sounds simple, but it's really, looking at your websites, right? Your tier 3 websites, or if you're an independent dealer, your standalone website, and look at it and kind of say, how can I move and engage the customer there, right? So we've spent a lot of time with chat and with interactive kind of features, building out, custom landing pages for more vehicle information, getting all the way back to our original discussion about how do you merchandise vehicles correctly, right? It doesn't take a lot, but you want to answer customers' questions, right? And in the past, a lot of that was done in store. They rolled in, asked a bunch of questions. You have your knowledgeable sales team. So it's really like transforming your sales associates onto your online presence, and really making that there. That's another thing that we saw like immediately after COVID was our website became our communications hub. People were chatting us in. Are you open? How do I get my car into service? Can you pick it up? So they're out there, right? And they want to talk to people. So that's not a big investment, right? Everyone should have a website. That's something you can kind of do fairly quickly and kind of just anticipate or just build out that content to tell customers all the things you're doing. Maybe that you have the pickup for service, right? Or you have a porter who can come and get it or move the cars around. Just all those things that you are uniquely doing. Your customers will want to understand that before they make that journey.
That's great. And Brian, do you see, after all this adapting to what's taken place in 2020, what are some of, just maybe a couple things that you see might end up sticking, that you guys have adapted to at Autonation that you see as probably a trend that's not going away? Are there a couple of things that just come to mind? Because I'm sure you guys have this discussion every day, probably multiple times a day, right? Because stuff is changing like crazy.
Absolutely.
Are there a couple of those things?
Yeah, I think it's that, really the customer experience in store, that's going to stick. Someday maybe masks will go away, but I think the whole cleanliness and kind of one transaction, I think we're going to stay with that. I think that, which is always a tricky subject, but transparent pricing, right? Everyone's got to get over that hump, and we're there. We're one price on used cars. When we are doing our digital retailing, those are real prices with our Autonation discount included. That's what customers expect, right? They see it on every other website they're on, right? Then when it's on Amazon and it says it's $12.99, it's $12.99, right? It's not like, well, once I send an email, I get an email back, and it could be $11.50. That's another critical one that we're there, and I think everyone else has got to get there. And and also it builds trust, right? That when a customer knows this is, hey, I am giving you my best price. This is my rock bottom price. That that means something to somebody, right? They're kind of like, hey, I didn't have to walk in, you didn't have to shake my hand to get that. That you're doing that up front, and that builds trust.
No, that's great. So, Bob, do you have any final questions before I transition this into our after party?
I just wanted to ask one, and it's hard to do because it's such across the country. Across the country, the stats said that about 15% of people actually did the full transaction online, right? And if you think of the pressure that was on them to do that, if you think about the circumstances that would cause them to think about that, in your opinion, not even Autonation's, in Brian's opinion, do you see that climbing anytime soon? Do you think it's going to go to 20, 25% anytime soon, or is it going to be a long, slow journey?
I think I'd probably still say a long, slow journey, right? Because again, all those components that, although the online process on a website is very well digitized, it's still a lot of the trickier pieces, right? The desking tools and the CRMs and that DMSs that to wire all those components up to make all those things really truly happen without intervention is the hardest part, right? And
right.
For many, many years. So it's moving. And there's no doubt that, each month I see continuing traffic into the digital retailing space, not just a straight up lead form, but actually starting to transact online. So that's steadily growing. Also, another key indicator where I know it's working is the close rate, right? We all talked about this and say, hey, these are going to be super leads and they're going to close at 25%. These people are ready to go. It took us a while to get there. And to be quite frank, that another change that we need to make is to empower, back to this customer 360 and all that, is that empowering our sales associates to know that information, right? To say, take the time to understand what the customer did online first. Don't just fire off that email and saying, hey, when can you come in for a test drive, right? Hey, I know you did a credit app. Oh, I see that you've got a trade coming in, right? It's, basic one-on-one stuff, but, if more and more customers are doing those steps, you need to acknowledge it and don't drive them down it again, right? If they filled out that credit app at midnight last night, and the first thing you do is send them a link for a credit app, they're like, what are they talking about,
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Brian, again, we thank you so much for being part of Just the Facts episode number 6. I think this is a subject that people want to know a lot about, right? And want to change, some of their strategy moving into 2021. So thank you again for being here with us. And Bob, any final thoughts?
Yeah, Brian, we are absolutely honored that you chose to join us on this. We look certainly at Autonation as a very big partner of ours. We do appreciate that partnership, and we just wanted to personally thank you for taking the time out of your busy day with everything you got going on to join us for this. And we know our dealers do appreciate it. You like it or not, you're the biggest player in the game, so they like to hear from you. And we appreciate you joining us.
It was great, guys, and appreciate the time, and it was very very lightning for me. So I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right, thank everybody for attending. Thanks, Brian, again. We'll see you next time on Just the Facts.
Be safe, everybody.